Welcome back to get you across a lot of issues here and overseas. My wonderful panel, former Deputy Prime Minister John Anderson and political analyst Dr Jennifer Oriel. I'll start with you if I can, John. Help me understand this new Climate Change Performance Index released overnight at COP27. Now, despite the billions being spent, despite all but shutting down our fossil fuel energy system here and legislating these great big new emissions, Australia has been ranked number 55 out of 63 countries. And those who compiled the index castigated us for continuing to fund coal and gas production, for falling short on reparations, they say, and for having one of the world's richest but weakest 2030 targets for emissions cuts. Now, this is never going to end, is it? The goalposts just keep shifting.
Well, it certainly appears that way. And of course, a lot of this is based around the fact that we're a major energy exporter, which immediately opens up the question, does somebody actually want that coal and that gas, that energy? Of course they do. So why are they not being challenged to move away, since renewables, we keep being told, are cheaper and better and what have you? The reality is that, as the Americans have now acknowledged, 70% of the energy used by 2070 will still be fossil fuel energy. And this is a point that we just keep missing in this country, and because of our own self-loathing, our coal and our gas can help supplant much dirtier fuels, and cutting back on their exports will not only impoverish us, it will, of course, almost certainly result in an increase in global emissions. Then you've got to stop and think that they talk about 63 countries. There are about 180 countries. We are now about 1% of global emissions. There's no balance in this. It's a great deal of political posturing, a great deal of ignorance in the broader community. We know that 50% of Australians think that we produce between 10 and 20% of the world's emissions. It's not. It's around 1% in net terms. Furthermore, as I say, we are replacing a lot of dirtier fuels, which would make the problem worse if we were to shut them down. So logic is the first casualty when you get these ideological wars.
I mean, the end game, Jennifer, we know it's wealth distribution, absolutely, but the end game is to stop us, bully us into ending our export. I mean, fair enough, they're stopping us using it in Australia. I think that's madness. But once you strip out exports of fossil fuels from our budget bottom line, there's not much that'll pay for the high standard of living we've got in this country, but that's where they want us to go.
Yes, I think Australians don't understand, or a lot of Australians don't care to understand how much fossil fuels really support our standard of living. Without them, we would be a very poor nation indeed. And I think it's important to view climate change as a politics, and through the lens of strategic competition with China. China, of course, continues to use coal and increase its emissions, and says it's allowed to do that based on the Paris Accord or the Paris Agreement. And it also uses coal from other countries that are part of its Belt and Road Initiative. So that's the way it sort of bypasses or uses proxy actors to avoid responsibility for other emissions across the globe. We really have to be careful not to box ourselves into a position where our green politics compromises energy security, national security, and the wealth of Australians, the prosperity of our nation. And that's a real threat at the moment, and one that we really have to drive home so that we don't realise too late how much this politics, this revolutionary politics, has cost us.